Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Gerard Pratt, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNally. We warmly welcome the family of Private Stafford John Greer, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to acknowledge Shri Mahaveer Singhvi, Joint Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, India, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those who are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony from across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If able, I invite you now to please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through until the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Stafford John Greer. Stafford was born in Ipswich, Queensland in 1891, the youngest of 4 children born to Stafford John Greer Sr. and Alice Greer. The Greer family lived in Mergen, north of Kingaroy in Queensland, where Stafford attended Tobinga State School. In the town of Mergen, he worked as a butcher. Stafford married Margaret, and they had a daughter, Lillian Marion, known as Marion. In June 1916, at the age of 25, Stafford enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. After 3 months' training at Fraser's Hill Army Camp in Brisbane, Stafford embarked on board the transport ship Boonar, bound for Plymouth. Arriving in January 1917, he undertook further training before sailing for France in May. In France, Stafford joined the 42nd Australian Infantry Battalion, which was largely composed of soldiers from his home state of Queensland. During May and June, the 47th Battalion marched with other Australian and British troops towards the border of France and Belgium. In June, Stafford's battalion participated in a reserve role in the Battle of Messines. Despite being in reserve, his battalion was shelled heavily by the Germans and suffered many casualties. On the 7th of June, as the battalion marched through Plugstad Wood, it came under a major gas attack. Stafford and his comrades were forced to march while wearing bulky gas masks. Although this protected the troops from the horrific effects of chemical weapons, the extra weight exhausted them. After enduring rainy and cold weather, the mud made marching even more difficult. Following a decisive victory at Messines, the Allied forces continued on the march towards the Belgian city of Ypres as part of this campaign. Stafford and his battalion received orders to capture the German observation posts and communication trenches near the Belgian village of Varneton. The operation began before dawn on the 31st of July, with a preliminary barrage and smokescreen created by Australian artillery. The 42nd Battalion immediately came under heavy fire in a German counterattack. Throughout the day, the soldiers were engaged in hand-to-hand fighting as they captured the German trenches. Stafford's battalion captured several German machine guns and took several men prisoner, as it successfully achieved all of its objectives. In the afternoon, as the battalion was consolidating its positions, a bomb landed in the trench near Stafford, and he was badly wounded. He was taken to the nearby Australian Army Casualty Clearing Station, but died of his wounds the next day. On the 1st of August 1917, along with nearly 1,800 other Australian soldiers, he is buried on the site of that station, Troinabord Cemetery in Sternwerk in northern France. Survived by his grieving widow and daughter Mariam, who was less than 2 years old, today his remains lie under the epitaph inscribed on his headstone: "Sacred to the memory of my beloved husband, forever with the Lord." His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of Private Stafford with his family is displayed proudly beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Stafford John Greer, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
If able, please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you all for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.